Welcome back, everybody. It's Max from PaperGold and Common Ground Finds. And today I'm interviewing Mike, a PaperGold member, with the most extraordinary story of a book, a sold book that he recently found, discovered, and sold within the past 30 days. And I'm going to have Mike discuss this book. We'll ask him a few questions about how he sourced it, and we'll get the history of it. So, Mike, without further ado, you sold the book for over $6,000. Yes, $6,000. Please talk to us about the history here.
It was as surprising to me as it turned out to be to everybody else. I was at a house sale a while back, and I walked in the room, and there was a small pile of Dungeon and Dragon type uh, manuals. And while almost everything else was very recent, there was this older pamphlet of a game that preceded Dungeons and Dragons. And I recognized the game designer who he ended up, creating D&D, Gary Gygax. So I added it to my pile and didn't think much of it. And then when I did some research, I discovered it had been selling anywhere between $500 to $1,000, which was a very pleasant surprise. And based on a conversation on PaperGold of resampling something I haven't done in years, which is an actual auction on eBay.
Okay.
I figured I'd put it in, there and see what happens. And I took some photos, described it, briefly, and since I saw that it was selling, around 500 minimum, I figured, okay, a starting bid at 250 says I'm serious and it's a nice piece, and I'm not going to play around with let's see how far it goes, because then it looks like I have no clue what's going on.
And what did you pay for it at the house sale?
Oh, probably. I mean, the dealer there, he's usually about $2 to $3 a book.
Okay, so you paid a couple of dollars for it. You listed it at auction for 250. 7-day or 10-day auction?
In that case, it was a 7.
7-day auction. And did you list it on a Sunday so it ended on the Sunday, or did it not matter to you?
Yes.
Sunday
I
to Sunday.
somehow like that.
All right.
At least that was my experience years ago when I actually did auctions. I mean, everything I have on eBay is always, in recent decade, has been nothing but buy it. With marketplace with buy it now.
And how quickly did you realize? How many
Something was
days
going
in did you
on.
realize that? Oh my
Well,
gosh, look what this is.
almost as soon as I listed it, I got the opening bid.
Okay.
On Monday, I woke up, I was heading to see my trainer at the gym. And when I walked into the gym, it was around 500. And then it had jumped to 1,000 by the time I went in to see the trainer. And then when I left the trainer and came back to shower, it was over 2 grand. And I thought, oh my God.
Anybody offering you to end the auction early for
No,
cash? No, no one.
no.
Everyone was playing the auction game.
There were 2 serious bidders at that
Mhm.
point, although the
Okay.
final person who purchased it came in later. It wasn't one of
Okay.
those two.
And
But
and
then I figured, oh my God, what is going on here? So I had emailed my niece and her husband, who were both long-term D&D people, and they pointed me in the right direction. And I did some deeper digging and discovered this was the game that Gary Gygax had designed just before he came out with D&D. The gaming system within this game, well, it's basically a medieval figurines game.
okay.
Um,
But
he
you were
used
just
for
selling the
D&D.
you were just selling the book or the pamphlet, correct?
It's a 20, I think it was a 24-page
Right.
pamphlet,
Okay. Yep.
game rules.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other neat thing about it is apparently it was the first game system that ever had fantasy characters, which is a big,
Beautiful.
proceeding to D&D. So this was much more of a both scarce. I mean, it's been reprinted since
Mhm.
in multiple editions, but was the very first printing, and first edition. And it's sort of like one of those things that if you're absolutely in love with D&D. It's a milestone. It's a showpiece for any collection.
And
So
I know the history of you as a bookseller. We've had very long conversations, and I know you like to do research and go down the rabbit hole sometimes. Did you ever figure out how many were actually printed in the original print run of this?
no, but it was fairly modest.
Mhm.
It was a a small gaming system, and it was again for a very niche audience. Because
Right,
I mean, yes, there were. I mean, it wasn't say one of those where you'd be painting your own figurines and marching across for Napoleonic battles where you'd have much bigger printings.
right,
This was a medieval chain. The actual title of the pamphlet is chainmail,
right.
and
So where originally, I'm guessing late '70s this came out.
early 70s, if I
Yeah. So
remember right.
where would have someone bought this at a hobby store or maybe a fanzine? Where would someone have
Yeah,
seen
it
it?
would definitely be a hobby store or maybe a gamers convention.
Okay.
Um, I mean that's my
All right.
understanding of it.
Yeah. And what was, okay, before we get to the final price, were there any late biddings in the last 10 seconds?
Within the last couple minutes.
Couple minutes. Okay. So what was it at before it hit the final number? Was it at three, four thousand,
It was around 5 grand.
5 grand? So you knew you were in for,
It
you
went
knew,
to
yeah.
5 grand on the final day, and
Okay.
then it finally sold for $6,102 when it
That's not bad, Mike. That's not bad at all.
it's not shabby at all. I mean, it's hysterical because I've sold more expensive things, but I knew what the hell it was and where it was going to go, or hoped I knew
Right.
where it was going to go. This was a total, oh my God, isn't this cool?
And two final questions. I know we talked about this on the Paper Gold broadcast, but how did you ship a $6,000 book?
Oh, that's actually fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
Um, First of all, if you'll notice, most third-party insurances only go to 5,000
Okay.
as maximum. And this, so what I have had experience with more expensive items is you send it registered mail. The nice thing about registered mail is the insurance is included as whatever the declared value of the piece
Beautiful.
is.
Beautiful.
And so that makes it easy. Also, quite frankly, the chain of custody is ironclad.
Right. Yeah.
Things
That's a
don't get
good
lost and
USPS hack.
misplaced.
Yeah. That's very good
Yeah.
hack right there. That's great. That's great to know that.
And the other 2 points I'd make about that, um, there's a slight degree of preparation, but it's not a big deal. It's relatively almost comparable to what you would pay for, only a little bit more expensive than compared to the, say, certified mail with
Gotcha.
insurance. And also, it was a domestic sale. Anything over 2,500 that goes
Right.
internationally, you have a certain degree of hoops to jump through in terms of export certification. And in my case, after having tried to jump through it myself a couple of times, I simply give it to FedEx and let them do the paperwork.
Well,
So
I know that on our Discord for Paper Gold, we have a scoreboard for certain increments of sales. Did we, I don't remember, did we have to create a new increment for you?
no, you guys let me stealth in at the $1,000 level. I was
Thousand
okay
dollars
with
and up.
that.
Okay.
You know, I
We may need to recreate one. So we'll see.
no, please don't.
And my last question is what I ask all of the Paper Gold winners in the end. What advice would you give to people who are out there doing what we do? You and I are longtime booksellers. We remember days gone by before eBay and Amazon. But what advice would you give to people who are going into estate sales, going into people's homes, and trying to do what you've just accomplished?
Um, Go with your gut.
Mm, great advice.
I mean, this is something that was very alien to me. I've really not dealt with gaming kind of things before, but from my days back in college, back in the dark ages, I do remember the names of some of the major
Yeah.
designers, and this one popped for me. And it just, if if you have, for the cost of acquisition, if you think it might be good,
Go for it.
even if you're going to get disappointed down the road on 90% of it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I love that advice. Go with your instinct. You don't have to comp anything. Go with what you feel. Allow that emotion to carry you, and then go home and comp it out.
Yeah, and the other thing, quite frankly, is, I mean, yes, I have a few decades more experience than some of the newer people, but the only way you're going to learn is making mistakes. And you only usually make them a couple of times before you suddenly realize what rabbit holes you went down the wrong way. And it's well worth the cost of those mistakes,
Well,
unless you.
yeah, I congratulate you on this for the 100th time. Mad respect. It's a great story for everybody in the Paper Gold community and now outside the Paper Gold community. And I know that we're going to be doing this again with another one coming up sooner or later. I'm just waiting to hear for you to call me. That's all.
I'm trying to stay in stealth mode, but I appreciate it, Max.
Thank you, Mike. Have a great night. Bye bye.
You too. Bye.